Hello, welcome back to the ONLE Networking Show. I'm James West.
And I'm Kelly West, and we are the founders of ONLE Networking, the business network for people who like people.
We're going to be talking about LinkedIn and networking, why they're such a good marketing 1-2 punch combo. Yep. And then we're also going to be talking about, based on our topic this month, business planning. We'll try and make that a bit more interesting than it sounds. Let's start off with LinkedIn and networking. They've become... This has kind of grown organically, hasn't it? I think the rise of LinkedIn, certainly over lockdown, it's become good.
It's an easy way to do a bit of a background check on the person you're having a chat with, I think, isn't it?
Oh, I didn't know you were going there.
I'm just thinking about that as we were talking. People that we'd normally meet, we'd have a little look, see what they're all about. Look at their website, probably go to their LinkedIn first, wouldn't you? So yeah, they work hand in hand.
Sort of a personal website. Tony K. Silver would say that, wouldn't he?
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
kind of your personal website. So, well, let's just talk about the way that we use it, that most of our visitors, or the highest percentage of anything we do in terms of marketing, the best return comes from talking to people on LinkedIn. Not posting LinkedIn, because we've posted events, we've got Only Bristol coming up, that sometimes you get comments that people will connect, but the direct line, the best return is us having conversations with people on LinkedIn. And mostly, and I thought about this earlier, it's mostly the inbound connection requests. Because I think people just sit there going like this, connect, like. And I always message them, if you don't know how to do this, work it out, because this is so important. If you just accept connection requests, you're padding your connection numbers with people that don't care about what you do. Then when you post something, because it only gets shown to a limited selection, if they happen to be 50 people that don't care about what you do, your content goes nowhere, disappears, and then you're wondering why you get no engagement. It's because you're connected with people that don't care about what you do, because they've done... But this is what we do, isn't it? You actually click see all in the network connections list, and then you can send people a message. And I always say, hi, thanks for connecting. Not sure if we know each other, but very happy to connect with people here to network. Probably half of those people never reply, even when I then do a follow-up to say, did you see this? But then don't bother connecting with them, because they might have outsourced it. They don't really want to have a conversation. Therefore, what's the point in being connected? But a lot of those conversations, when people then do say, oh yeah, I know, I've heard about Only, or I've seen we've got these connections, often leads to a conversation where they come and visit our network.
Yeah, and also introductions from connections. So I probably spend an hour a day replying to messages where there's 3 people in the chat, because one of our members or one of our connections has said, oh, Kelly, you need to speak to so-and-so. Copied them in, which actually, if you think about it, is a huge time-saving exercise. And if I can introduce people now, I do prefer to do it on LinkedIn, because if you're doing it on email, hi, Kelly, this is so-and-so, this is their website, this is what you've got to... this is why I think you're in common, and then so-and-so, this is Kelly, this is what she does. But once you've got it in a LinkedIn message, I can click on the profile. That introducer doesn't really need to tell me about this person. They just need to tell me why they think we should be connected. So I think if you're time poor, I think it's really important to do those connections on LinkedIn, which means you need to make sure your LinkedIn profile is up to date and it's got all the details they want people to see, because I am still blown away, and this will happen at every meeting, the people that I meet that don't actively have a LinkedIn profile. They'll have a profile, but they do absolutely nothing with it, and they're not looking at it. I'd argue that you're better off not having one.
You don't have to post either.
No.
We're just talking about the actual profile itself. We're going to talk about...
Or being aware that
frequency.
It's there.
Yeah, we're going to talk about frequency of post later, but what you're talking about is just having up-to-date information about who you are and what you do. But let's just talk about the workflow, because this is something we talk about on our training to members, that I reckon... Of every networking meeting that I ever go to online, ours included, as a percentage, how many people after the meeting proactively reach out to you with a connection request on LinkedIn with a message? 5%?
Possibly, yeah.
Maybe 10 if
Maybe
we're
10.
being generous. And those are the people that are immediately going to get something from networking because they've continued the conversation and set the ball in motion to build a relationship based on an introduction made at a networking event. So if you want to be in the top 10% of performers of people going networking events, come off the call, get the attendance sheet, connect with everyone with a message, and you're automatically 10% better off than the remaining 90%. That's my maths brain. You know what I mean.
90 is 100, so you're all right there.
You know what I mean, though, don't you?
Yeah.
It's true, though, isn't it?
It is true. And also, don't everybody do this, otherwise you won't be in that 10%. But the attendance sheet, you're always going to have people that don't turn up. You're always going to have that. But do you even acknowledge that they were supposed to be there? Because quite honestly, whether they're there or not, you would have only heard from them for a minute or two. So you've still got their contact details. They're still a human. They're still interested in networking, getting out there for their business. So if there's a reason to connect, I'd say more so there needs to be a reason to connect for this one. But don't be afraid to reach out to people that couldn't be at the meeting. Because I tell you what, you will stand out massively from the crowd. You really will. Because you'll make that person feel special. You'll make it feel like, well, it was recognised that I wasn't there and actually still somebody wanted to speak to me. And then another example very quickly, I've only ever had this once in the whole, only 6 years old. I've only ever had this once where a visitor messaged me before a meeting to say, I've just seen the attendance sheet, seen that you're going to be there tomorrow and I'm really looking forward to meeting you. I mean,
set the ball
really?
rolling earlier.
How lovely
That
was
is
that?
good.
And I've had ongoing conversations with that person. He's in my sphere. When somebody wants what he does, I'm going to him because he's a really nice guy.
That's a great point, isn't it? What you might be thinking if you're watching this and paying attention to what we're talking about, you might think, well, why bother going networking? Because basically what we've described is we're sending a message to people, something personalised to make a connection because there's someone in the sphere that might end up becoming a member. So it's kind of a sales process, if you like.
To a degree, yeah.
So you might think, well, just bypass the networking event and just do that directly on LinkedIn. And this is the really important thing. If you do it that way round, you are effectively cold calling people and their first reaction will be, what do you want? Whereas if you do that via people that you've met at networking, they've effectively given you permission, you've had an icebreaker, they've seen your face,
or at least your details.
They've heard a little bit about you, and that then just speeds that entire process up, because the hardest thing to do in terms of building business relationships is getting past the point of suspicion.
Yeah.
What do you want?
The intention is that we are on this list because we want to go and network. So you've already gone over a hurdle, haven't you? Well, I'm open to a connection with the right person because I'm here or I'm on the sheet. So yeah, absolutely.
Brian Hillier talks about this, doesn't he? He said there's something that happened when we moved online. This is so good. He said when we used to go to face-to-face networking, we took people on face value. You say you do this, I believe you. And he said now online, because we get bombarded with spam and people, trying to sell us stuff that we don't know who they are. And we're seeing this a lot via email now. I think people get details from LinkedIn, send you an email, because we've been conditioned to be suspicious rather than taking people on face value. So we've become less trusting, which if you then think about it, makes networking even more important than it was before. Because there's been a level of validation, isn't there, that you're a real person, because a lot of people outsource this kind of activity. Am I actually speaking to John who sent me a connection request, or am I speaking to John's representative? Do you see what I mean? So that's why networking, if you run it through,
it works.
Great point.
Yeah, definitely. So my relationship with LinkedIn is probably a bit different to most. So I very rarely post. Very rarely post. A, because I can just never think of a good post to put out there. B, I'm not a very good writer, so it's not often that engaging. I think the way I write the way I think, which is not always a good way. And I just don't ever think to do it. Other things take priority, but I spend hours a day on LinkedIn. So when I do then go and post, I get incredibly good engagement. So I think if you are somebody in a similar space to me, don't make it up, don't make it hard, don't spend hours doing posts that you get 1 or 2 likes or nothing from, and you're not really enjoying it. Use it as a relationship tool. You can engage with LinkedIn in other ways. You don't have to be posting all the time.
Yeah, well, you get attention by commenting on other people's stuff because they're all desperate to see engagement on their posts. So you leap out and they've done the work for you.
Yeah.
You're just putting a comment on.
And also, don't underestimate the power of the lurker. I think we've all got examples of this. You may not get loads of engagement on your post, but trust me, there's going to be somebody out there that saw it, it resonated with them, and that it's gone into their memory bank. So it's one of those touch points, isn't it?
There's a whole conversation around engagement and the value of it. I think the point with your activity on LinkedIn, because you hear this a lot, don't you? LinkedIn people will tell you to get it working well, and we're talking about getting engagement, you got to post every day, or some people moderate and they go, you got to post 3 times a week. Now that probably does work because LinkedIn wants more. It just wants more. It just wants more activity. It wants people to stay on its platform longer. If you are contributing to keeping people on its platform, it's probably going to reward you via the algorithm in some way. But none of that has got anything to do with a result from LinkedIn. I'm going to talk about engagement in a minute, but the point is, engagement does nothing if you don't derive a result, a tangible result from networking. And this is what you do so well. You get, well, what is that result?
From my interactions, well, I'm making genuine connections.
I've tripped you up there. You get people booking meetings and coming onto our network. So,
of course.
And because we can then say, we convert X amount of people that visit our network, then become members, we can put a pound sign next to it. I know I'm being cold, but in terms of hard result, your activity leads to money, basically.
Yeah, it does. And I actually would argue that I don't think there's many people would have the stomach to use LinkedIn the way I do, because it involves an awful lot of connections, an awful lot of juggling relationships and time. I mean, I use a CRM to back it up, and I've got LinkedIn connected to my CRM because I'm not kidding you. I'm probably having conversations with up to 50 people a day on LinkedIn via private messages. So I can't keep all of that in my head. So it has to be backed up by a CRM. But the strength of the relationship that I'm building as a result of that, and I'm genuinely interested in people, so it's not, it is a sales tactic to a degree, but I genuinely believe I've got a product that the people I'm talking to want.
But that's why it works, not necessarily what the outcome is. And I think being genuine with that, having proper conversations with people. But this is about ultimately, and people might think, oh, what, you spend hours having conversations with people? I haven't got time for that. I would just urge you to think about, have you then got hours to post on LinkedIn? Because people spend hours and hours, and I'm going to try it this way, and then I'm going to post every day, and I'm going to do this. You still haven't got a result.
Well, thinking about that, you've got to give credit to gain credit thought, and I've not really ever thought about this before, but I do value people's time, so I understand that, yes, this is partly a sales call. The ones where I've been introduced to people, they're expecting that because that's what the introduction has been for. If somebody's reached out to connect and we've got talking about each other's businesses and then they've decided they want to come to ONLE, I always give those people a free visit because they've taken the time to listen to me. I've listened to them. It's been a 2-way relationship. We've taken each other's time. So I'm offering you a visit to my thing because I value what you've told me, and I think you would be of benefit, mutually beneficial for you to come into the network. So I'll give you that for free. So I'm giving you something because you've given me your time. So I would argue that that's the difference for me. You've shown how it works. Come and see this at scale at my network. My sale doesn't involve a pound sign at that space. And then if you come and you enjoy it, then of course, then you want to join, then that's entirely up to you, and you'll pay for that to happen. But to get to that point, it will cost you nothing financially. Yeah. So I think we've prefaced it enough. Don't worry about engagement unless you've got a measurable result in some way, whatever that looks like to you. But let's just talk about engagement because people love this bit. Why do some posts get engagement and some don't? And you get all this psychobabble from the LinkedIn person who knows a guy at LinkedIn and all this rubbish. All I did recently was an experiment. And this started off just from a position of,
I just thought this was a good thing to do for the members. So I said at the networking groups I went to, put your latest LinkedIn post in the chat, and I pledged to put a comment on it. That was it. I didn't ask for anything in return, and I did. And do you know what? I learned more in that experiment than I could ever have learned by trawling through articles about how LinkedIn works. Because you know what I saw straight away? Some posts make it almost impossible for you to leave a meaningful comment. So I wanted to help these people, and I actually broke it down into there's two types of LinkedIn posts broadly. One is kind of a broadcast, and I've written an article about this, which hopefully Lizzie, who's Lizzie? Izzy, if we ask nicely, we'll put in the chat. It breaks down what's under those categories, what kind of post. But basically, you've got the broadcast post and you've got the conversation starter. And if you post a conversation starter, you make it easy for me to help you by putting a comment. And I've just urged everyone to try this sort of 10-minute experiment. Try and comment on other people's posts. Just go through your news feed and just try and comment on them, and you'll immediately see why it's so difficult. What do you think about that?
Well, no, I agree with you. And you had a lot of members follow you around and do a similar thing, didn't you? So because they understood that, oh, hang on, if James is going to get involved in this, well, I should do this. The link's there. Why not? I can help somebody and it's costing me nothing. But I've been thinking about this recently, and I was actually talking to Dan Moore, one of the members, about it yesterday. When I see a post, if it's a really close connection, I am going to be more inclined to read a screen's worth of bullet points and statements and look at the nice picture, okay? If it's a loose connection, I'm probably going to skim the top and move on if it's not really grabbed my attention. Why do we all put the question and the engagement piece right at the bottom of that scrolling list of stuff? Why are we not asking the question at the top and then going into the content as to why I'm asking you that question? Because unless I'm opening that post and I'm spending time on it, I'm not even going to see the question.
Yeah.
So you're asking me to do too much. So I think I might try that as an experiment.
You can sort of lead with a provocative statement which leads to a question. That's the hook. I mean, we're into kind of the art of writing good posts now, aren't we? But and I think you're absolutely right. Go on, what are you going to say?
Well, I was just going to say, can we just touch on it becoming a bit too personal quickly? I mean, this is a whole can of worms as well, I know, but I do hear from people that they don't want to go on and see people's lives. Now I don't want to either. I don't want to see what we've had for lunch. I don't want to see all of that stuff. But we are in a world where we talk about our story being incredibly important for our brand. So where do you sit with sharing personal stuff on LinkedIn?
Behind the scenes stuff's good. I mean, there's no doubting I've continued this experiment, and if you use original photography with a bit of joy and a bit of personality in it, that does really well. You can almost not, like, the words are less important than the imagery, certainly in terms of getting impressions. The way to look at that is, do you want to read someone's website / marketing material?
No.
Of course you don't.
No.
So would you rather learn a little bit about the person?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, there you go. There's your answer. And that is human nature. You know, there's always where is the line drawn? Do I want to work with that person based upon what they're sharing?
Fair point.
If you then go so personal where it's like, actually, I'm not enjoying this, or this is too much, that's putting me off the person. I can't give a definitive answer to that, but that's where you've got to use your common sense, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
So it's time to go around the network as we've been talking about business planning, plans for 2024. Denise Willier was our only talk subject, and she talked about this was lessons from big business, you know, what do big businesses do? And one of the things that really stood out, basically big businesses have a plan of what they will and will not do to reach their goals, which sounds obvious. But the reason that you do that, because what you won't do is as important as what you will do, it stops you, and I'm going to quote Denise, going down an online rabbit hole. She also said getting distracted by shiny things. And I think that's really important to be, if you want to grow, you might not want to grow your business, by the way. That's fine too. But if you are in a mindset where you want to grow your business, you need a plan, and you need to make sure you don't get distracted. And well, we've been in this place, haven't we?
Yeah,
we've worked quite hard on this.
Yeah, we have worked hard on this, and it it has its positive and negatives, doesn't it? And I know some people think, oh, a 5-year plan, I can't even think about tomorrow. The amount of times I've heard that, you know, I'd be a millionaire. But I think it doesn't really matter whether it's 5 years, 10 years, 1 year, 4 months. You've got to put your own personality on that plan. You get what you ask for.
Yeah.
If you're not asking for anything and you don't have anywhere to aim for, you're not going to get there. So I think just having that constant reminder of what you wanted at the point that you wrote your plan is so important to have. So we have a 10-year, 5-year, 3-year, 1 year, 6 months, down to sort of the monthly thing. So the monthly one is obvious. Have we done the things we wanted to do this month, rolling it forward? Moving that on to long term, are we actually doing the stuff we need to do in order to get to that long-term goal? Is that long-term goal still relevant? Because plans can change, and I think this is where people,
you have to adjust it.
Get a little bit stuck. They think, oh, well, I've got this thing and I'm killing myself to try and get to it. Well, maybe it's just not relevant so much anymore.
Maybe you need to change the top line.
It's not. I would say that that's been the same for us. I think our outlook for 10 years has changed in the last couple of years, and there's nothing wrong with that. So I think it's just that having hold you accountable.
Yeah.
So what's made you accountable, and what are you going to do? I would actually really like to just throw in a shout out to Louise Miller here, because I went on to one of Louise Miller's Make It Happen workshops. She was very kind to invite me along, and I've told her this, but this is a goosebumps moment where business and personal blend into each other. On that call, I had some personal stuff regarding Kennedy, our daughter, that I needed to get started, and it was sat there, and I never got round to it. It was that call that made me go, I need to do this. I need to prioritise it, and I need to focus. And I'd written it down, I put it in the plan, and admittedly, really sorry, the plan did stay on my desk for a long time. But one day I just went, no, Louise is right, get it done. 15 months later, after doing all of that stuff, we're in a really good place with that thing that needs to do. So, but the point is, if I hadn't have planned to do that, if I hadn't have had the accountability of that plan to do it, wouldn't have worked.
It'd still be there.
Happened.
A lot of people, I think, set up a business. They don't actually know where they're trying to get to. Initially, it's like, well, I need to make money and I'd like to grow. And that's probably the extent of it. And Tom Perkins quoted Alice in Wonderland. I think this is a quote from there. The Cheshire Cat. I don't know if you've heard this. It's great. Apparently, Alice gets to a bit where you can go left or right and there's no sign of where it will take you. And she says, which way should I go? And he says, well, where are you trying to get to? And she said, I don't know. And he goes, well, then it doesn't matter which way you go. And that's so true of business, isn't it? And where we talk about, we probably haven't explained it enough, the 5 year to 1 year to 3 months to 1 month plan, we're literally talking about bullet points. I want to get to here, ideally in 5 years' time. This is what I will then break that down within a year where we will try and achieve. Because what you can then do, once you then drill that down to a month, you keep checking back. Is that getting me towards 3 months? Is it getting me towards a year? It makes it tangible. It makes it digestible. It makes the impossible and unreachable seem within reach, because you are just moving through stages. But ultimately, it's that Alice in Wonderland thing. Where you're trying to get to, don't be then surprised if you don't get there, because you don't even know where it is.
You don't know where you're going anyway. Yeah.
Exactly that.
Good point, very good point. Sam Sharma said, don't make decisions based on emotions, base them on data. I couldn't agree more. I think this is really hard for small business owners to do. Emotion, you can't help it. You are your business at a small level. So I think that takes maturity of business, it takes strength of mind, and it takes you to kind of have quite a few knockbacks in order to be able to see that future growth. But I say this all the time, let's look at the facts. What's the data actually telling us?
Yeah.
Not how we're feeling at this moment in time, because we all have good and bad days. But it's not right to base your growth or your success of your business based on how you're feeling in here. Look at the data.
Brian Hilliard talks about this, doesn't he? He talked about conversion numbers.
Yeah.
He said, I know statistically I convert, I can't remember what the percentages were, but X amount of the sales calls that I have will convert. And he said he had a cold shooting streak is what he'd call it, where he didn't convert. And he said, I got quite stressed about it. I started worrying something was wrong. And then he said, I went back to the numbers and realised I was just getting my losses were stacked up together. So the next one statistically was probably going to be a conversion. And then he came back the next month and he went, I've converted 4 or 5 in a row.
Yeah.
because he trusted the numbers. So
it's counting the no's as well, isn't it?
yeah,
We talk about this sometimes, but you're not going to get forever yeses. So count the no's. So you then know that I've got to get X amount of no's before the next one becomes a yes. And it's almost makes it a bit of a game and a bit more fun to know that, well, this conversation is probably going to be a no. If it's a yes, then that's fantastic, isn't it? It's even better.
yeah.
It's just setting yourself up for being realistic.
Definitely. And being intentional. Jeremy Jacobs said this, and I don't think it was actually in relation to this topic necessarily, but I've stolen it anyway because it was really good. He said about speaking to people who don't want a lifestyle business, they want a team. And he was talking about the mechanics of getting to that stage. But that's a really good point about planning, because I bet if you asked a lot of people, which one of those, do you want a lifestyle business? No, I want a big, do you want a team? No, probably not. Well, then you're stuck in between, aren't you? Because it will probably mostly be a lifestyle type business without outsourcing or without additional resources.
Which there's nothing wrong with.
Of course, there's nothing wrong with that. But which one do you want?
Well, I'd go so far as to add to that, don't expect your lifestyle business to achieve what a smooth running business would achieve. And be realistic that a lifestyle business is great. I mean, I'm sure we'd all love a lifestyle business where we could work X amount of hours and pay our bills quite comfortably. And if you can achieve that, fantastic, you're winning in my book. But don't expect to have a lifestyle business that you can pick up and put down, but then it achieves the maximum capacity that a fully functioning business would do.
You can't have it both ways, can you? And there's sometimes nothing more beautiful than a really well set up lifestyle business that fits into someone's life, and you actually see a business owner that's happy.
They've probably planned though, because they know exactly what they need from it.
Exactly. So there you go. Thanks, Denise. That was a
very good
topic indeed. Thank you, members. So this has been the ONLE Networking Show. Please like, subscribe and share, and we'll see you again next month.